Yes, people, it's Kirk, and I'm here with Sam. We're here in Morocco ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations starting real soon. We're both super excited for that. But ahead of that, we've just had some crazy breaking news, which we're not too sure how we feel about it. But anyway, we'll get into that in a second. You've got the Africa Cup of Nations changing format from 2028. The competition is now going to be played every 4 years. They've
Crazy.
also introduced another curveball, which we weren't expecting, which is now they're introducing a African Nations League as well to come up.
Yeah, it's going to be massive. It's going to be huge. We won't get into all the details now, but one of our journos, Ed Dove, was at the press conference where the CAF president spoke, and he'll be able to share all the details on exactly what is going on. So take a look.
Some bombshell news here from the Africa Cup of Nations, one day before the tournament kickoff as Morocco take on Comoros here in Rabat. We've had a press conference today with Dr. Patrice Motsepe, the president of the Confederation of African Football, who's announced two massive changes to the Africa Cup of Nations as we know it. So the first big change is that for the first time in almost 70 years of its existence, the AFCON will no longer be every 2 years, which is what we've grown accustomed to, but it will now be every 4 years. It's a change that I think many of us have anticipated for a while, given that now we have the World Cup, which has 9 African teams, given now that the AFCON has been expanded to 24 teams, which makes it harder for countries to host it. I think it's been expected that before too long this decision will be made. Which doesn't make it any less shocking, I must say, that it's been announced. The other big change is the introduction of the African Nations League, emulating a little bit what we have in Europe at UEFA with the UEFA Nations League, except Motsepe confirmed today that it would be organized regionally. So you would have North Africa, which would be 6 teams, then you would have 16 teams, mini leagues in East, South and West Africa, with the winners then competing to win the CAF Nations League. Let's talk about some scheduling. So the AFCON is going to still take place, all things being well, in 2027 and in 2028. Then in 2029, we will switch to this new Nations League format. We don't know. There are so many unanswered questions about this. We don't know what it means for World Cup qualification. We don't know what it means for African qualification. We don't know if there's going to be any appetite in Africa for the Nations League, although Motsepe confirmed that he's very confident that in terms of sponsorship, in terms of television rights, that would be a done deal. There would be no problems with that. Obviously, the gamble that CAF are taking here is that the revenue they can generate from a Nations League every year will compensate for halving the number of Nations Cups, halving the number of AFCONs to every 4 years rather than for every 2 years. I asked Motsepe directly, how much revenue do you need to generate from the Nations League each year to compensate for having half as many AFCONs? He didn't have the specific answer. He just assured me that he was confident that the deal would be a good trade-off financially for African football. But at the same time was saying it to the extent to which African football needs money, and therefore this decision was a necessity. In explaining in a bit more detail why they made this decision, he referenced the fact that this club versus country tussle between European clubs and between African countries, he said he wanted to put an end to that because it wasn't fair on the players. He also said that it was essential that the revenue that would be generated from the Nations League would help to fund stadiums, to help to fund development in the continent. And he said that he intimated that this is what sponsors are asking for. This is what has been requested to him from external third-party sources or stakeholders who have some control because of investment over the future of African football. It certainly seems like what's in the interests of FIFA and what is in the interests of Europe's major clubs. It was very telling that as Motsepe delivered this message, he was sat next to Matthias Grafstorm, the right-hand man of Gianni Infantino over at FIFA, the FIFA General Secretary. And it's perhaps pertinent that this decision, just as we're hearing more and more about CAF becoming beholden to FIFA, about proximity between Motsepe and between Infantino, that we have this decision taken about the future of Africa's premier continental competition, which is so aligned with what FIFA had hoped for. During this meeting, Motsepe said that he'd fought against the idea of an AFCON every 4 years, but eventually they just showed him the money. He said FIFA, Matthias Grafstorm showed him the money, and he realized that it was the deal that had to be taken for the good of African football. He said that he had overwhelming support from from federation presidents across Africa. He said the Egyptian president supported him. He said Samuel Eto'o was emotional. He said it was a wonderful decision for African football. So Motsepe certainly appears confident that this is the right move for African football. But I must anticipate and I must predict and forecast that the opinion among journalists, the opinion among African football fans, and potentially even the opinion among players will not necessarily be the same as Motsepe's vision for Africa.
If I'm honest, let's just start breaking this down and start from the introduction of the 4-year sort of change with the format. What are your thoughts on that Africa Cup of Nations now every 4 years?
Oh, man. I feel like, kind of what Ed was saying, I feel like it was almost inevitable. It's been in conversation for a while. I think from 2020, the FIFA president wanted it to happen. And it's just taken this long for it to come into play. I think there's benefits, but there's also disadvantages at the same time as well. I think one of the benefits that I would say is that I think just less football for the players. I think the players just nowadays are playing too much football. But it is now you've introduced a Nations League, so it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, there was no point of taking it away kind of thing. But I would say that's probably the only benefit. I think the disadvantage to it is the fact that what makes the AFCON so special is because of how quick it comes around. There are years where we have to wait 2 years, but there are also years like just recently where we've had to wait 1 year for another AFCON. Do you get what I mean? Like we've been able to watch this competition so regularly, see emerging talent, see even talents that have been around for so many years. For example, the Andre Ayew's, the Samuel Eto'o's, when he was playing, being able to play in so many different competitions. It was because it was played so regularly. Now we're not going to be able to get that. So I think that 4-year wait, honestly, like I'm not happy about it as a fan. I think like I was already excited for the next AFCON. The one in Morocco hasn't even kicked off yet. And I'm already excited to the fact that after this one, we're going to be in 2026 and we're going to get another one in 2027 straight away. So it's like, yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, like it just is what it is. I just hope that they're going to be able, like Ed was saying in the video, he was talking about the revenue side of things. How is that going to impact revenue for CAF? You know, from going from, you know, will the Nations League be able to accumulate as much funds as an AFCON and having that on a regular basis? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I'm totally with you on all of that actually, because when you consider AFCON and just how sort of much it's grown actually over the last few years, I think one of the things that's helped it massively is momentum, as you say, having it so frequently. And when you have a competition like that frequently, it just feels like every single year there's more and more and more eyes on it. So now if you're breaking it up from 2028, you're going to be seeing it every 4 years. It's not as frequent, so that could just completely kill the momentum. And we can say for sure, like every single year, it just seems like more and more viewership. So I'm totally with you on that. I think the other side of it as well is, I also agree in the sense that it could be less football for the players involved. But when you think about, let's say, the Nations League, the European version, I think as a whole, everybody sort of mentions how it, as you mentioned, it's just not as popular. It's not something that, sometimes even when it comes around, people get annoyed by it. Do you think that's something that could be, like, you know, something that they could actually attach to the Africa one as well? Of course, it hasn't started yet, so we're not too sure what that's going to look like, but it's just looking at how it's been received in Europe. Some people are fans of it, some people just aren't. So it's just one of those things where, is it a good move? Is it a good move for them to do for African football?
Do you know what it is? I feel like even when you just look at it from a fan's perspective, when you look at the European one, like some people don't see it as a major trophy, but you almost want your team to win it. You don't want your team to not win the Nations League. And I feel like you put that tournament in Africa, we'll make it a major trophy. Just based on the hype around it. I think fans will just be excited to watch their country compete for a trophy. We saw, for example, Morocco win the Arab Cup the other day, and you know, for a team like Morocco who don't send their senior team over there, we saw how the fans still celebrated that and still, you know, were happy that their country were able to get it. So I think they'll treat this the same. The fact that it's the senior teams being played here, but whether it's going to be beneficial for African football, I would say, in agreement with you, the viewership, well, there's going to be more opportunities to watch African football on, you know, mainstream television in whatever nation you're in. Do you know what I mean? Usually you only see it when AFCON comes around. You struggle to watch the qualifiers for the World Cup and the AFCON, but when AFCON's on, you watch it with the Nations League. I'm sure they'd want to take the same direction. So I think more eyes will be on it. It's also just a more opportunity for even like people to travel and come into Africa and watch games and actually experience it. So I think on that side of things, like if they manage to fill up the stadiums, I think it can work out really, really well. It just depends on whether people are going to be interested or not, and they need to make it affordable because, listen, I mean, seeing some of them World Cup prices and they look crazy, and I'm just hoping that for AFCON and Nations League it can continue just being affordable.
Yeah, and I also wanted to introduce another sort of thing to it. How do you think clubs are going to respond to this? Because I know there's already a lot of backlash sometimes of certain players, especially when you look at within the Premier League, when you've got their players going away to something like AFCON. Introducing something like the African Nations League into the mix on top of obviously AFCON now being a thing, how do you think that's also going to be received? Like just within club football in general, managers and all that kind of stuff. Playing football in Africa as well, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
Conditions
are different.
It's very, very different.
I feel like it should be okay. I don't feel like, because I mean, if we're looking at it it's going to start from 2028, we're then going to have no AFCON for 4 years and a Nations League every year. I think as long as they align it well with the international breaks, I think it should be fine. There's been no complaints with the European one because it's always aligned with the international break. Yeah. So I think as long as they do it properly and there's none of this, you guys are meant to be here preparing for the new season, but no, we've got to play in the African Nations League. That's when I think it's going to become an issue because they've already done it so much with AFCON. So now, quote unquote, a lesser competition taking up that much time is just going to be even worse, I think. Yeah. But what do you reckon?
I agree. I think I'm in total agreement with it. The only worry would be, again, because of the dynamic of having to play all of these games in Africa. So the conditions and everything, maybe depending on when they decide to put it within the calendar year, coming out of certain conditions to now come down to Africa to play, like we see just the amount of stress and everything that goes on these footballers game by game and the amount of games that they play in general. So introducing something like that into the mix as well, I think it should be interesting to see how they make it all work because obviously player welfare definitely should be at the top of their priorities list. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they make it all work. But I just feel I can see certain managers sort of hearing the news and they'll shudder a little bit because it's.
Listen, I feel like I feel like when something's not familiar with you, you're always gonna find something to complain about.
Change is scary.
Do you know what I mean? But I'm hoping that it's gonna be received in the same way like the UEFA Champions League's been received. When the format changed, everyone was fuming. Yeah. Now they love it. Yeah. You know, their teams are facing big teams every single week. So I just hope it's received in a similar way, or if not the same way. Yeah. And I'm just, man. I feel like I saw a lot of the outrage when the news was announced, and I'm not angry about it personally. Yeah. I'm just not, because I just want to watch more of my team play. I want to watch more African football, and as long as it doesn't take a toll on the players in terms of how many games they're playing, etc., then I think I'm fine with it, to be honest.
Yeah, the last thing I also wanted to discuss was looking at something like the Euros, something like Copa America every 2 years. Do you think AFCON now changing to every 4 years, you've got that competition, the Africa Cup of Nations, sort of maybe falling away from the other two? As I keep saying, like it's gained so much momentum over the years, and it's a tournament that people actually look forward to. You know, we've heard certain comments of people talking about it not being a major tournament. So when you look at it from the point of view of now it's going to be later and later, given the fact that it's now going to be 4 years, you have a situation where maybe it might fall behind the other two, do you think? Or do you think the 4 years will genuinely help?
I think, first of all, one thing that I'm going to say is that competitions like the Copa America are playing catch up to the AFCON because the AFCON's clear. Let me just get that straight.
Let me get my facts right.
You can say what the heck you want in the comments. I said what I said. It's a good point. I don't think I really thought about it. I hope not. I hope that there's just this hunger, we can't wait for the AFCON to come back, as opposed to, we forgot about the AFCON. I feel like this could probably be a turn in a leaf in terms of like, oh, we've now come from this competition where we're a quote unquote small competition, so we need to get in front of people as many times as possible. Till now, we're so big that people can wait.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's the case. Maybe we look at it like that. Maybe we look at it like that, and that just helps in terms of perspective. But like I said, it just depends on how you see it. It could be a thing of where people look at it like that, or people could genuinely forget and be like, oh, AFCON's back. I forgot that tournament is played. But I hope not. I hope the Nations League will help remind people.
Yeah.
And plus, we get a nice new trophy to come
Yeah,
with
it's exciting. I think sometimes when you mention the change,
do you know what I mean?
everyone, as you said, everyone's a bit like, oh, da, 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 da. But yeah, it's a new trophy.
Think about it. Like any African fan, like just think about your country being the first team to win the African Nations League.
Yeah.
You would celebrate as if they won the AFCON.
And you get to see more of these sort of rivalries as well.
Yeah,
Ghana,
man.
Nigeria. You got Algeria and Morocco. You get to see more of these rivalries. Like,
it's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. By the way, we ain't been paid by CAF or FIFA.
No.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. But yeah, guys, honestly, as time goes on, of course, we're going to know more. We, haven't talked through it. I'm sort of open to it now. I'm more excited to see what is to come. But as we said, competition, AFCON, about to start. Very, very soon. We're super excited. The streets of Morocco, you can see everywhere you go. Everyone's so excited for it to start. Of course, Morocco kicking off against Comoros.
Yes.
And then, you've got your games to come. So, yeah, we are super excited for the tournament. I'm sure it's going to be a great one, but we'll see you on the next one.